Welcome to FCT Brief, your trusted morning companion for in-depth conversations on national issues shaping Nigeria's development. Today, our spotlight is on President Tinubu's bold move that signals not just recognition of deep-rooted challenges within the security sector, but a renewed commitment to reforming the architecture that builds and sustains Nigeria's security forces. For years, the effectiveness of our national security has been closely tied to the quality of training received by personnel. From outdated infrastructure to inadequate funding and lack of modern curricula, the cracks have often shown in operational efficiency and response capacity.
Now, with this presidential declaration, the administration is seeking to reposition Nigeria's security training institutions to equip them with modern facilities, advanced technologies, and world-class instructional standards that will meet the demands of a rapidly changing security landscape. As the nation awaits the concrete rollout of this policy, questions abound. How prepared are our training institutions to absorb these reforms? What roles will funding agencies and oversight bodies play in ensuring transparency and sustainability? And how will this translate into tangible improvements on the front lines of internal security operations? To walk us through these critical issues and shed light on the government's strategic framework, we are joined this morning by Mohammed Sheidu, the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Police Trust Fund, an institution at the core of supporting police training and operational capacity across the country. He will be sharing insights on the President's directive, ongoing reform efforts, and what Nigerians can expect in this new era of security capacity building. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, the President just recently spoke about an emergency in training capacity of our security institutions. Now, the question is, why did this take us this long, and does it have to be an emergency before we realize that, especially the police, need this upscale in its training capacity? And such training, what specific gaps do we expect that it will fill in this intention of Mr. President?
Thank you very much. We have to actually commend Mr. President for this bold initiative. And thank you for mentioning that. Why has it been so long? I think personally we have to always discuss leadership and the executive will. So it depends on the person at the helm of affairs. We actually now do have a president that knows exactly what the issues are when it comes to security. We have gone from a place whereby we are dealing with security issues with a more kinetic way. And if we look at it, it is more about internal security problems that we have that we are facing in Nigeria. And the agencies that are charged for this, or specifically, it's the police. Now, if you look at it over the years, we've had neglect for the Nigerian police force. That's what it is. I'm a product of the police home. So I would categorically tell you that over 40 years ago, the type of trainings and the type of infrastructure and the type of capacity building that was done for the police officers in those years, over the years, there's been a steady decline and depreciation into that. And it is the only way we could move forward in this country, and there's no way you have to tie security to development. And our security problems, as we mentioned earlier, is internal security. The agency charged for that is the police force. But we've had leadership over the years that have not concentrated the focus on the particular agency that is charged for our internal security, which is the Nigerian police force. Now, going into the capacity building of the officers, the first place you're going to start from is the training institutions. So you come out from school or wherever it is, you get recruited into the police force. You go into the training facilities. Its charity begins at home. Just like a child that is born, the first place he leaves after his home peer group is to school, is for his training. So you look at that with the Nigerian police force. But you see that over the years, the training facilities, training curriculums, they have not changed. So there's been a steady neglect on that one aspect. So to me, I always say like that abandoned stepchild of Nigeria that we have not dealt with, and that's the Nigerian police force. And the president has seen that there is no way we would be able to move forward with our security challenges without us focusing on that primary agency and those agencies, and the major thing we're looking at is training, is capacity building. How do you build the officers to be able to protect and serve and to be able to help guide our laws?
Mr. Sheidu, the neglect that you speak of, we're beginning to see that change with the police force, and that is because the Council of State has approved an upward review of the police trust fund and location from 0.5% to 1%. That is from the Federation account. How transformative is this move to the institution?
It is a very major one, and I will constantly say we would commend Mr. President and the Police Council for actually seeing the major issue, as we said, is a depreciation, a neglect. And when it comes to the neglect, it comes to funding and resources. Those resources and funding have not been allocated to that specific organization. And when I say, except from even just the training, the welfare of the police officers. So all of those things are the things that the Police Trust Fund was set up for originally. It is to cater to the police force for training, buying of equipment, to just make sure that our police officers perform better their jobs. And for you to be able to do that and achieve that, you need resources, you need financing. So it is definitely a very major milestone, and it is something that they had sat down and looked at and said, for us to be able to achieve all of these reforms and changes that we need to, first of all, in-house, let us increase this, let us have more funding for us to be able to achieve what we have to achieve as the Nigerian Police Trust Fund.
Now, what are these criteria you put in place? Now, we're talking about an upscale from 0.05% to 1%. And I think also we do have the 0.005% from companies.
Yes.
Now, has this money been consistent? Even the 0.05 before it was reviewed, has it been consistent so far? And if it has been, what criteria do you use in deploying this resource? Because if you deploy resource to an institution that the welfare is almost zero, so if the money comes in, it might not be judiciously used. So what criteria do you put in place when you're deploying this resource that you have into those institutions?
First of all, you mentioned about the consistency of the fund.
Yeah.
If you know the history of the Police Trust Fund is that I think in 2022, Rivers State, then under His Excellency Wike, they took the trust fund to court and they actually won the case, which actually stopped us receiving those FAC allocation funds. But the 0.05% net profits of companies operating in Nigeria, we were receiving, but that was after the tax law was reviewed also, whereby FIRS now started gathering its monies for us. Now, when it comes to the deployment of the resources and the funds, is we work directly with the Office of the Inspector General of Police and the police itself. Now, there's a needs assessment that is also carried out by the police and also around. And we tailor our needs, or we tailor the work that we're doing towards the actual needs that come from the Nigerian police force. So whatever they feel are critical assets or critical things that need to be purchased or trainings that need to be handled, those things we collate, we sit down together, we try to make sure that we harmonize, and we try to deploy based on the needs assessment from the Nigerian police force.
Besides these funding issues that you mentioned and the state of emergency that the president has declared on its institution for security, one major issue that keeps coming up is the issue of discipline among the force. We see a lot of badly behaved police officers. How is the institution also addressing this challenge to ensure that, the product from the institution is one that they are well groomed and they know what applies as men of the force?
Thank you for that. So if you see the focus and the security, the emergency as we call it now, is the training institutions. And like I said earlier, charity begins home first, from home to school. So we train these police officers in institutions, or even, would you call it, in an infrastructure, in a setting, in a place that, like we said before, you cannot send animals to those kind of places. Now, if you train, there's nothing, so I will say before, it's like you send them into that institution and they come out, like you have just mentioned, in discipline. Because the first thing is that they're all human beings. It's a survival of the fittest mindset that once you see the training facilities, how they're being trained, the first thing is, how do I survive? And in doing that, I keep saying that we need to now provide not just this training, but even welfare, like things that need to tie these police officers to their job, a sense of entitlement, whereby we, the governments, Nigerians, are providing for those police officers. There's no sense of entitlement. That's just the truth for these officers. So when you say, you will always be caught wanting, because he's trying to survive. He's trying to make the next day. He cannot survive today. So it's more about, how do I make the next day? Now for that, you would always catch them doing things that, would you call it, in corrupt practices. It is survival. He's trying to survive. That's just the truth. What is the basic salary of the police officer? About 100 and something thousand. Out of that money, they are going to kit themselves. Transportation, housing. These things are not provided for. But as a human being, you are going to go and look for those things. And it is in those, when desperation will now make you do things that normally you wouldn't do. But once we can tie officers to housing, to maybe your dependents being family and farmers, now I have a sense of entitlement. The police, I joined the police force. As joining the police force, I have a home. As joining the police force, my family members are farmers. There's some form of resource, of some form of wealth coming back into it. I know that if I lose my job, if I do anything that is indiscipline, I would lose that job. Because of things like that, I wouldn't. I won't be wanting, I won't be caught wanting, because I know that there's a lot at stake. But as of today, those officers, let's face the facts, they don't have anything at stake.
Okay, Mr. Sheidu, it brings me to one other thing. We're still talking about welfare. I know that part of what the police transport actually consists to do is not primarily about welfare, it's the operational capacity. And you just mentioned the welfare of the police. And some persons have said that if the attention governments of Nigeria from time, not just this government now, give to the military, which is very important to the way government is funding the military. Would you say if the police also is funded, they have the operational capacity, you go to the police barracks, it's okay, and they have all this, that we're going to have an efficient police? I remember when we used to have the mobile police force in those days, before, I think, the 70s. Could you say that the police will be very effective? Is that a place we should go back to and start the reform from that place? Where we left off?
You are very correct. So it goes back to leadership. And you said over those years, there has been funding for, yes, the military and other security agencies. But like I said earlier, the stepchild, the neglected stepchild of Nigeria is the Nigerian police force. And when it comes to leadership, you said not just this government, but yes, over time, we've had military heads. Even as the democracy came in, we still had military men that became presidents of this country. This is the first time in over years that we do have a demilitarized president. And it is probably why we now see that we have to face the Nigerian police force. This is internal security that we have. It's not external, it's internal. For us to be able to achieve internally, we need to focus on that agency, and that is the Nigerian police force. So that is where we see it. And I think it is, like I said earlier, it's an executive role. It is the leadership that now matters. So we now have a president that says this is what needs to be done, because it is an emergency. Over years, it has been a steady neglect of that one agency. But unfortunately, when it comes to crime prevention, when it comes to law enforcement, it's the police's work. Nobody else. So that has been the major issue. And the president has seen that this is what the issue is, and it has to be tackled now. For you, you cannot have development without having security. In charge of internal security is the Nigerian police force. That's just the truth. Constitutionally, it is the Nigerian police force. The military cannot charge and arrest. They can't prosecute. But the police is charged for that. Now you have neglected that one agency that's charged for that. That is why we have the issues that we have today.
So now that, President Tinubu has shifted focus on the Nigerian police force, how would you say the issue of corruption within the force will be addressed? Because it's one thing to release funding with good intentions, and people that are at the top of affairs, you know, it doesn't trickle down. What mechanisms will be put in place to ensure accountability, transparency in this system?
Now we have to now look at it, and there's something we like to say, and I feel with this policing issue that we have in Nigeria, it is not just the executive will, which we have seen Mr. President show. We need an organizational will. That means every organization, media houses, corporations, and we need the people will, meaning all as Nigerians to know that we have this singular problem, and it comes to our internal security, which comes to our police force. Now, for us to be able to achieve this, all hands need to be on deck. And when it comes to this corruption issue that we've discussed, as we said earlier, it is a survival of the fittest that is going on currently in what we have in the Nigerian police force. Now, if we start with our recruitment, this problem, as we're seeing it, is over 40 years. It's not going to be solved overnight. It is going to, the same process it took us to be where we are, hopefully, and my prayer is with this will that we have, and as I said, all hands need to be on deck to know that we have this problem, we will be able to move forward. Now, with the survival of the fittest is that those officers will get into situations like that, and where they're not being catered for. The governor of Zamfara mentioned recently that even not just these training facilities, the remuneration of those police officers, of the security, like we have to check out their salaries. Ideally, the government is meant to kit a police officer from rank of constable all the way to 1-star. But I can categorically tell you now that they cannot kit an officer from head to toe. Now, those are part of the problems. I've joined the police, you can't kit me. I'm going to look for money to kit myself. Like I said, I'm going to look for money to feed. I'm going to look for money to send my kids to school. I'm going to look for money to transport myself. I'm going to look for money for housing. These things are not provided. They should be provided. Anywhere else in the world, you see those things provided for their police.
Okay, you just talked about this kitting, and uniform is a symbol of the states. Yes. And if I have to go look for that symbol of the state, which means I might not get the kind of quality that represents the quality and integrity of the Nigerian state. But let's look at structural issues about the police. You have the Office of the Inspector General of Police. You have the Police Service Commission. You have the Ministry of Police Affairs. We had a retired military officer on this platform just recently, and he said, like you have in the military, you don't have that in the police. And he's saying that why do you have all that bottlenecks put in place in the police? That probably that's the reason why it is not that effective. According to him, that the Chief of Army Staff, for instance, will appoint GOCs and they can deploy them anyhow. He can discipline who he wants to discipline. And he said that, why is it that in the police, there's a restriction to what the Inspector General of Police can do? It is the Police Service Commission that will do it. Do you think it's one other thing that the presidency and the National Assembly should look into, talking about the structural composition of the police, so that we have a more efficient and the one that can play in the global circle?
Thank you. That is a very notable and thoughtful. What I would say about that personally is, yes, but for the military, I know they have things like the Ministry of Defense. But if you now look at the police, yeah, there are different bureaucratic processes. The IG for appointment of CPs that I know you are very correct, they have to get confirmation from the Police Service Commission. I think those kind of things might cause a little lag in time. But regardless, I still feel like those things, yes, like you mentioned, the legislative, they should also look into it. But I know that military, the Navy, all of that, they still have like a Ministry of Defense that's kind of oversights most of all of them. Now, police has been singled out to have his own ministry. Before, we used to have we were under the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which I still feel it makes sense. But I think what we're discussing now is, do those different agencies cause bottlenecks? Ministry of Police Affairs is more of a policy maker for police things that they want to do. Then you have the Inspector General of Police. His office really is for the operation of activities and things that have to do with the police. Police Service Commission, as you rightfully said, discipline when it comes to recruitment, and they've had issues also with what you said before, with the IG and maybe Police Service Commission when it comes to recruitment processes, when it comes to issues like this. Yes, it's something they can look at, but as from where my own standpoint, you might be correct. They should take a look at it legislatively because they might have a part whereby they are crossing powers, they are crossing jurisdiction, especially with the Office of the Inspector General of Police and the Police Service Commission.
All right. Often hear the saying, the police is your friend, but are they really your friends? Because we see a lot of police officers being hostile to people on the road. Probably in some cases, we just see police officers being hostile to people. I'd like to know what kind of orientation do these police officers have? I know you spoke about funding and welfare, but aside that, where is humanity also when you see a fellow person that you're supposed to protect, protect, and you are just hostile to that person? Is it frustration, and how do they overcome it, even just aside this welfare issue that you've raised?
Thank you for that. You mentioned one word there, frustration. I always tell people, I said the police officers we see today are miracle workers. Yeah. And why I say they're miracle workers is because of the way we cater to our friends. You call police is your friend, but you would not treat your friend the way we treat the Nigerian police force. Simple. And like we continually say, and that's why Mr. President is saying that the training institutions, how do they come out of the system? You take them as regular citizens, put them into the training facilities, they come out as those hostile people that you're talking about. And it is based on how they're trained and catered for coming in. I was watching a movie recently, I've not even finished it, this Frankenstein movie. I just want to quickly get there. He was not catered to, there was no love. And now the person that created him was, at the end of the day, he killed the person. It is similar, it's a similar story. Police is your friend, but look at how we treat our friends. We are not treating them well.
Okay. The next 12 months, what will success look like to you now that the Police Trust Fund is getting all the attention from the presidency and the National Assembly? What will success look like to you?
He said all the attention. It's more about the police, and that's where we need to focus the attention on. And what we're looking at is that we need to see more of these changes. And I believe, coming from the angle of the Police Trust Fund, is we are going to see more focus when it comes to this capacity building, welfare packages, and these training institutions, as we mentioned earlier, bringing them up to standard, up to world-class training institutions so that we can be able to hold our police officers accountable. We are not giving them anything for us to receive anything from them. So we as a nation should now, which is what we can see going on right now, for what we pour into them now, we would now expect a whole lot more from them. So in the going forward, in the coming months, coming years, we should be able to see more progressive change when it comes to the Nigerian police force.
We'll definitely look forward to that. And I must say, government must begin to treat the police as our friends. Well, we'll look forward to that. Thank you so much, Mohammed Sheidu, for your time with us. It was a delightful conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.